working to connect a region of over 600 cultural bridges between our lands.
Good afternoon, I'm Alma Angeles, and you're watching ASEAN in Focus. We're coming to you live from Manila and Thailand. Hello, Gila.
Hello, good afternoon, Alma. I'm Sheila Pablo, bringing you the news in the dynamic ASEAN region.
On today's headlines. Today, we are honored to have on the program His Excellency Charles C. Jose, the Philippine Ambassador to Malaysia.
A Malaysian man convicted of drug trafficking was executed today in Singapore after a last-ditch legal challenge by his mother failed.
A Myanmar junta court sentenced Aung San Suu Kyi today to 5 years in jail for corruption, part of a barrage of criminal cases that could see the deposed civilian leader jailed for decades. And today, we're honored to have on our program His Excellency Charles C. Jose, the Philippine Ambassador to Malaysia. Welcome to the program, Mr. Ambassador.
Hi, magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat at sa inyong mga tigas-baybay. Maraming po salamat for inviting me again to your program.
Magandang hapon po. We're honored to have you and thank you for being with us today and gracing our show po. First, Ambassador, today they were supposed to announced a further easing of COVID restrictions there in Malaysia po. Pero meron na po bang announcement ngayon? Ano po ba ang present COVID situation there in Malaysia?
Well, nag-open na po ang borders ng Malaysia starting April 1. And most of the restrictions previously associated with the movement control order were either totally lifted o kaya na-relax na po, no? And today, we are anticipating yung announcement ng further easing ng mga restrictions. And dahil po dito sa pag-open ng borders, pati yung lifting ng mga interstate travel, ay nakapag-resume na po ang embassy natin, no, ng mga mahalaga naming mga gawain dito. Unang-una po dito, nakapag-resume na kami ng aming consular outreach mission sa East Malaysia, sa Sabah, starting this month. In fact, sa kasalukuyan po, meron tayong consular mission na nasa Sandakan po ngayon.
Okay.
And 2 weeks ago, ay meron tayong mission sa Tawau. And yung pong mission natin sa Sandakan ngayon, bukod po sa consular mission ito, mga renewal ng passports, etc., ay sinabay din po namin ang mobile voting, kaugnay po ng ating overseas voting for overseas Filipinos, para mabigyan po ng pagkakataon ng ating mga registered voters sa East Malaysia na makapag-exercise po ng kanilang right to vote. And another important work that we were able to do ay dito po sa embassy, no, we were able to conduct nga pong overseas voting for registered Filipinos dito po sa Malaysia. So this overseas voting has been ongoing po, no. It's a month-long political exercise na nagsimula po nung April 10.
So, Ambassador, speaking of overseas voting, since napunta na rin po kayo doon, how is it po? Did you encounter any problems along the way? At this point po, kumusta naman po ang overseas voting po dyan?
I think we are managing very well, no? Yung voting po rito, everything is going well, very orderly. Marami pong nakapag-boto na, no? At meron tayong mga observers dito, mga watchers, and I think they can also validate, no? Yung sinasabi ko po na maayos naman po ang ang voting dito sa Kuala Lumpur.
So no problems encountered so far po?
Well, fortunately, wala po kami na-encounter na mga problem thus far.
Maybe baka gusto nyo i-remind yung ating mga, are there mga voters po, ano, na kasi dito po merong mga kumakalat ng mga ballots na meron ng shaded or ano, baka meron kayong gustong ibigay na reminder sa ating po mga voters?
Panawagan lang po, no, sa mga kababayan natin dito sa Malaysia na rehistrado po na bumoto ay well, we advise them to vote early, no. Bukas po ang ating embassy para po sa overseas voting. Monday to Sunday, wala pong holiday, from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. This is from April 10 to May 8. But on May 9 itself, yung voting day sa Philippines, we will be open from 8 a.m. until 7 p.m. And we will accommodate lahat po ng nakapila, no? Kahit abutan sila ng 7 p.m. So, we encourage all registered voters dito sa Malaysia to check muna, no, dun sa certified list of voters. Available po yan sa aming website para po matiyak na naka-register po sila bago po pumunta rito. So, hindi po kailangan appointment. They just drop in. And, of course, we'll be observing SOPs para po sa to prevent this spread ng COVID. So we observe physical distancing and wearing of face mask. And of course, yung mga COMELEC directives, wala pong mga kukuha ng mga photographs inside the polling precinct.
Since speaking of COVID, sir, Mr. Ambassador, you spoke earlier about Malaysia. Medyo nag-open up na po sila, no, sa like other Southeast Asian countries, they're going to the endemic stage po, living with the COVID virus. Diyan po ba, ano po ang reaction ng ating mga, kumusta naman po ang ating mga kababayan po dyan regarding COVID? Ano pong reaction nila sa pag-open up ng Malaysia ngayon?
Well, of course, most of our kababayan, they welcome the reopening ng Malaysian economy, ng borders, starting April 1, because this means many things, no? Yung pag-lift ng mga restrictions, dating mga non-essential services, industries, ay pinapaganap po ngayon mag-operate full capacity. And yung pong pag-reopen ng economy, this means, no, na gaganda na rin ang projection. In fact, maganda po ang outlook for the Malaysian economy this year. According to the World Bank, the Malaysian economy is projected to grow by 5.5% this year. And intention din po ng Malaysian government to raise to lower to 4%, no, ang unemployment rate of the total labor force. And with the reopening of borders, we expect yung mga services industry and the tourism industry na kung saan po karamihan ng mga kababayan natin ay nagtatrabaho to be able to recover and makabalik po sila sa mga dati po nilang mga trabaho. And starting May 1, ay meron din pong government-mandated na increase, no, sa minimum wage from 1,200 ringgit to 1,500 ringgit a month, no, sa mga selected private sector companies. Hindi po lahat ito mag-implement and by phases. So yung mga small and micro companies, enterprises ay exempted po muna dito. So yung mga kababayan natin na qualified to receive this increase in minimum salary, this would mean additional disposable income o kung di kaya naman po ay dagdag sa kanilang savings na pwede po nilang ipadala sa mga pamilya po nila sa Pilipinas.
That's very good news po, Mr. Ambassador. With regards naman po sa vaccination, kasi here in the Philippines, we began administering fourth dose or second booster shot last itong Monday lang po, April 25, ano? What is the government's plan naman po for second booster shot po dyan? At paano po yung mga Filipinos? Will this be available for them po?
Opo, no, nung April 14, nag-announce po yung Minister of Health na available na rin po dito sa Malaysia yung second booster, no? Pfizer po ito. And may 3 kategorya po na qualified na tumanggap nitong second booster. First category, yung over 60 years old with comorbidities. And second category, yung pong over 12 years old with moderate or severe immunocompromised individuals. And yung third category, over 18 years old, na kailangan magpa-second booster as part of travel requirements. So, we're still waiting for yung mga talagang detalye po nitong plano na to. But according to the announcement, this will be optional, no? Hindi po ito talaga mandatory to everyone.
Okay.
Kung sino lang po yung gustong makakuha who are under these categories. And this will be free. And previously, yung primary vaccines plus booster, lahat po ay lahat ng residents sa Malaysia, citizens and non-citizens, ay kasama po dito sa vaccination program na to.
So pwede po non-citizens din. So pwede pa rin ating mga kababayan po dyan. Kumusta naman po ang COVID cases ng Filipinos there po? Wala na po ba? Wala na pong nagkakasakit?
Wala na po kami natatanggap ng mga report, no, ng mga Filipinong nagka-COVID na humihingi po ng assistance dito. So hopefully talagang mababa na po ang cases na rin dito comparatively. And today nga po, no, in-expect namin further easing ng mga restrictions, pati yung wearing ng face mask. Hinihintay po namin kung ano yung magiging laman po ng announcement ng Malaysian government.
Yes, we're waiting for that also. Kala ko po may nag-announce na sila eh. Pero I guess we are all still waiting for the further easing of curbs po dyan sa Malaysia. Pati po sa border ng Singapore, nag-ano na din po, nag-open up na rin po.
Po, no, yung cross-border between
Yes.
Malaysia and Singapore, na nag-open na rin po sila.
Meron po ba mga Pilipino na nagko-cross over between Malaysia and Singapore o bihira lang po?
Yung mga Pilipino po natin either they are working in Malaysia or they are working in Singapore. Yung pangkaraniwan na gumagamit itong cross-border ay yung mga students and workers, no, either Malaysian or Singaporean, na araw-araw pong tumatawid ng border. So sa loob po ng 2 years na nakaraan, no, talagang na-stuck po sila, either yung mga Malaysians sa Singapore side o yung mga Singaporeans sa Malaysian side. But now they're able to cross the border.
So, Mr. Ambassador, I don't want to take much of your time, but I want to ask, Ambassador, do you have any announcements from the embassy and any message for us watching you right now po?
Opo, no? Well, we have major programs, activities coming up. Una-una po dito, yung nalalapit nating Philippine Independence Day in June.
Yes.
So we are coming up with a program to celebrate this with our Filipino community. Last year po, virtual tayo online. And this year, we are thinking of making it a hybrid and more interactive with our Filipino community members here. So we will announce the details once we have firmed them up via our usual platforms sa social media. And once again, panawagan po sa mga kababayan natin to vote early. Huwag na po natin hintayin yung last day para po hindi tayo gahulin sa oras.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, for your time. As always, please take care and maraming salamat po. We are very honored and thankful for your time as always. Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador.
Maraming salamat po din sa inyo. Maraming salamat po.
And there you go, His Excellency Charles C. Jose, the Philippine Ambassador to Malaysia. And ASEAN in Focus will be right back.
Tapula ka! Saputi ako! Larga!
Pula, sa puti. Anong kaguluhan to? Masama ang sugal. At eleksyon ngayon, kaya bawal yan.
Ayon sa Omnibus Election Code, ang pag-organisa ng mga perya, sabong, boxing o kahit anong kaganapan na may sugal ay isang election offense.
Pwede yan! Nagre-relax lang naman kami.
Bukod sa masama ang sugal, importante din taalala ng ating buong atensyon. Dapat hindi tayo nadidistract ng mga panalo ko! Pakawalan niyo ako! Hindi na ako ulit! Ako si Mr. Bawal na nagpapaalala sa inyo na ang sugal, election man o hindi, huy! Bawal yan!
A public service message of Net25 for Mata ng Halalan 2022. Matatag, matapang, matapat.
Alam na. Mga kandidatong humahabol para masungkit ang solidong boto patuloy na nagtutungo sa tanggapan ng Iglesia ni Cristo. Abangan ngayong Miyerkules sa Mata ng Agila, alas 6 ng gabi, dito lang sa Net25.
Welcome back to the program. A Malaysian man convicted of drug trafficking was executed today in Singapore after a last-ditch legal challenge by his mother failed. Let's watch this.
I think it was just really hard on the whole family to hear that the appeal was dismissed. You know, it was really just kind of the last hope that they had for today. So to just kind of have to accept that this is the end of the road and that, you know, they have no more legal avenues and that Singapore just wants to press ahead with it, it's just really difficult for them to accept.
Nagayantran K. Dharmalingam was arrested aged 21 as he tried to enter Singapore with a bundle of heroin weighing about 43 grams, 1.5 ounces, equivalent to about 3 tablespoons. After exhausting all usual avenues of appeal, authorities scheduled his execution for Wednesday. Supporters say he has an IQ of 69, a level recognized as a disability, and was coerced into committing the crime. But authorities have defended his conviction, saying that legal rulings found he knew what he was doing at the time of the offense. Singapore resumed executions last month after a hiatus of more than 2 years, and activists fear authorities are set to embark on a wave of hangings.
In an interview with AFP on Tuesday, British billionaire Richard Branson urged Singapore's President Halima Yacob to grant Nagentran clemency. He called the death penalty inhumane. Let's listen in.
In this day and age, Singapore should by here they're now going to execute yet another person on Friday. whether they should be in the business of hanging people. I mean, it's just so inhumane. It's the one horrible blotch on its reputation. If I was running a company and I had a ghastly blotch on my reputation, I would get rid of it. And I think the way to get rid of it is to do what Europe did 70 years ago, and that is abolish the death penalty altogether. I think it's the one thing about Singapore that is really negative. He was an extremely young man when he was convicted of carrying 3 tablespoons effectively of diamorphine, and he's got an IQ of under 70, and on that basis alone, he should not be killed because he's a handicapped individual, and that under international law is against the law.
Singapore lifted most of its strict virus curbs today, with officials hailing this as a significant step towards normalcy. For religious services, there will no longer be a group size limit. All employees who can work from home may now return to the workplace, an increase from the current limit of 75%. Safe distancing will no longer be required between individuals. The capacity limit of 75% for congregational worship services and other mask-on religious activities involving more than 1,000 persons will be removed. Vaccination differentiated SMMS will be removed from congregational worship services and other mask-on religious activities, except for activities involving more than 500 persons at any one time. Singing in religious classes with mask on will be allowed. People will no longer be required to check in with contact tracing tokens or apps when entering most venues. But masks will still be required for indoor settings and on public transportation. Earlier this month, the city-state reopened its borders to all vaccinated visitors, joining other countries in the region that have recently dropped travel curbs as they shift to living with COVID-19. Authorities announced plans Friday to lift more measures, including scrapping all testing requirements for vaccinated travelers beginning Tuesday, April 26. The World Health Organization warned that a dramatic drop in testing for COVID-19 has left the world blind to the virus' continuing rampage and its potentially dangerous mutations. And UN Health Agency said that reported COVID cases and deaths had been dropping dramatically. Let's watch this.
Globally, reported cases and deaths continue to decline, which is very encouraging and good news. Last week, just over 15,000 deaths were reported to WHO, the lowest weekly total since March 2020. This is a very welcome trend, but it's one that we must welcome with some caution. As many countries reduce testing, WHO is receiving less and less information about transmission and sequencing. This makes us increasingly blind to patterns of transmission and evolution. But this virus won't go away just because countries stop looking for it. It's still spreading, it's still changing, and it's still killing. The threat of a dangerous new variant remains very real. And although deaths are declining, we still don't understand the long-term consequences of infection in those who survive. When it comes to a deadly virus, ignorance is not bliss. WHO continues to call on all countries to maintain surveillance.
As cities in East Asia go on lockdown, as vaccination rates stall, testing rates have plummeted by 70 to 90% worldwide. So we have an unprecedented ability to know what is happening, and yet today, because testing has been the first casualty of a global decision to let down our guard, We're becoming blind to what is happening with this virus. As Philippe noted, that undermines our ability to treat COVID with new therapeutics. And as Dr. Tedros said, this virus will not go away just because we stop looking for it.
This is not the time for us to lose focus on this virus, nor on its potential to continue to evolve, nor on the fact that it's still killing people all over the world. Everyone is aware and anxious to move on from the pandemic. Nobody more than us, I can assure you, would like to see the back end of this pandemic. But the reality is that you have a right. Everyone has a right to their own opinion as to whether this pandemic is over or not. But what you don't have is a right to the fact, and the fact is that this pandemic is still raging. You can have an opinion as to how we should react and respond to that, but the fact is that we're not out of this yet.
The Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris, is isolating at home after joining millions of Americans who have tested positive for COVID. She tested positive on both rapid and PCR tests. She tweeted, "Today, I tested positive for COVID-19. I have no symptoms, and I will continue to isolate and follow CDC guidelines. I'm grateful to be both vaccinated and boosted." The White House said she does not have symptoms, and her list of recent close contacts doesn't include the president or the First Lady, whom she spent time with over a week ago. Harris, 57, is the latest in a rash of cases sweeping through the Washington elite, with multiple members of Congress also announcing positive tests on Tuesday. The vice president's husband, Doug Emhoff, came down with COVID back in March, although Harris herself remained negative. Other high-profile cases in Washington recently include White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, who contracted COVID in March and also last year, as well as the House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who comes after Harris in the line of succession to the presidency. As new COVID cases in the U.S. continue to trend upward, deaths and hospitalizations remain lower, even as the country gradually lowers its guard, learning to live with COVID. Many, including Vice President Kamala Harris, counting on vaccines and boosters to protect against severe illness.
As infections from the virulent but dramatically less dangerous Omicron variant of the coronavirus mount, the White House has publicly aired the possibility of Biden testing positive. Let's watch this.
It's a matter of time, but of course it is possible that the president, like any other American, could get COVID. The bottom line is he is vaccinated and boosted. He is very well protected. He's got very good protocols around him to protect him from getting infected. But there is no 100% anything. And I think the key focus has got to be we got to continue protecting the president.
In October 2020, before vaccines were available, then President Donald Trump spent 3 days in hospital receiving emergency treatment for COVID-19, which he had told Americans was not a danger. More than 900,000 people in the United States have now died from COVID-19, which at its peak killed over 3,000 a day. Currently, about 300 to 400 people die from COVID every day in the world's richest country. China has confirmed the first known human case of the H3N8 strain of avian flu, but health authorities say there is a low risk of widespread transmission among people. H3N8 is known to have been circulating since 2002 after first emerging in North American waterfowl. It is known to infect horses, dogs, and seals, but has not previously been detected in humans. China's National Health Commission on Tuesday said a 4-year-old boy living in central Henan province tested positive for the strain after being hospitalized earlier this month with a fever and other symptoms. The boy's family raised chickens at home and lived in an area populated by wild dogs, the NHC said in a statement. The boy was infected directly by birds, and the strain was not found to have the ability to effectively infect humans, the commission said. It added the test of the boys' close human contacts found no abnormalities. The NHC said the boys' case was a one-off cross-species transmission and the risk of large-scale transmission is low. It warned the public to nevertheless stay away from dead or sick birds and seek immediately treatment for fever or respiratory symptoms. Avian influenza occurs mainly in wild birds and poultry. Cases of transmission between humans are extremely rare. Human infections of zoonotic or animal-borne influenzas are primarily acquired through direct contact with infected animals or contaminated environments, but do not result in efficient transmission of these viruses between people, according to the World Health Organization.
And all eyes are still watching the developments in the war in Ukraine because it affects not only the ASEAN region, but the whole world. Russian President Vladimir Putin told the visiting UN chief that he still had hope for negotiations to end the conflict in Ukraine. Let's listen in.
Несмотря на то, что идет и военная операция, мы, тем не менее, все-таки рассчитываем на то, что нам удастся достичь договоренности на дипломатическом треке. Мы ведем переговоры, не отказываемся от них.
Sitting across from Gutierrez at a long table at the Kremlin, Putin said efforts at talks with Ukraine had been derailed by claims of atrocities committed by Russian forces in the town of Bucha outside Kiev. President Putin told Gutierrez he was aware of your concerns about Russia's military operation in Ukraine and ready to discuss it, but blamed the turmoil in the country on an anti-state coup that overturned a pro-Russian president in 2014. Mr. Gutierrez reiterated his call from an earlier meeting with Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov for Moscow and Kiev to work together with the UN to set up aid and evacuation corridors to help civilians in Ukraine. And we have more developments in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Russia suspending gas shipments to Poland and Bulgaria as their forces step up their assault on eastern Ukraine. Take a look. Fighting continued to rage across Ukraine's east. Kiev's defense ministry said, with Russia shelling Kharkiv city and its troops launching an offensive on the town of Barvinkov. Russia said it had carried out high-precision missile strikes against 32 Ukrainian military targets, including 4 ammunition depots on Tuesday. It also launched airstrikes against 33 targets, as well as 100 artillery and rocket strikes. In the south, 2 Russian missiles struck the industrial city of Zaporizhzhia, which has welcomed many civilians fleeing Mariupol, according to regional authorities. Mariupol's mayor, meanwhile, said a 3rd mass grave was discovered and that locals are being forced to bury bodies in exchange for food and water. And also today, Russia took actions outside Ukraine. It cut off natural gas deliveries to Poland after Poland refused to pay Russia's demand in rubles. Poland, like much of Europe, is still buying oil and gas from Russia and has been sending Ukraine weapons.
Germany, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin met with defense officials from 40 countries, including NATO members, and also countries such as Israel, Japan, and Australia, pushing for more military support for Ukraine. Let's watch this.
And I wanted to especially welcome a major decision by our German host, as Minister Lambrecht announced just today that Germany will send Ukraine some 50 Cheetah anti-aircraft systems. And yesterday, of course, the British government announced that it would provide Ukraine with additional anti-aircraft capabilities as well. And today, Canada announced that it will send Ukraine 8 armored vehicles. And so that's important progress. We're seeing more every day. And I applaud all the countries that have risen and are rising to meet this demand. But we don't have any time to waste. The briefings today laid out clearly why the coming weeks will be so crucial for Ukraine. So we've got to move at the speed of war.
Когда действительно риски весьма и весьма существенные, Очень не хотелось бы, чтобы эти риски искусственно раздувались, а желающих таких немало. Опасность серьезная, она реальна, ее нельзя недооценивать.
That was Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov warning against provoking World War III. The U.S. has been rushing more weaponry to Ukraine and said the assistance from Western allies is making a difference in the two-month-old war. Lavrov accused Ukrainian leaders of provoking Russia by asking NATO to become involved in the conflict. NATO has effectively entered into a war with Russia through proxies and is arming those proxies, he said. NATO forces are pouring oil on the fire, Lavrov said, according to a transcript on the Russian Foreign Ministry's website.
Meanwhile, the World Bank said that the war in Ukraine has dealt a major shock to commodity markets, altering global patterns of trade, production, and consumption in ways that will keep prices at historically high levels through the end of the year 2024. Let's listen in.
What we've seen is a surge in commodity prices following the invasion of Ukraine. And that largely reflects the fact that both Russia and Ukraine are large commodity exporters. But even before this, we had seen a rally in commodity prices as economies opened up following COVID-19 lockdowns, and we also had some supply disruptions in several commodity markets. Now, the increase in prices has been broad-based, not just in energy, but also in food, and that's starting to have very real economic and humanitarian impacts. Sure, so we're expecting energy prices to rise by about 50% in 2022 compared to last year, so a large increase. And particularly in the case of crude oil, the price for Brent crude oil, the international benchmark, is expected to average about $100 a barrel this year. And that would be its highest level since 2013. We expect prices to decline a bit in 2023 and 24, but they are expected to remain much higher than we had previously anticipated. Now, in the case of natural gas, we're actually expecting prices to double in 2022 compared with last year. And that reflects the importance of Russia as an exporter of natural gas, particularly for Europe. For natural gas, there aren't really any good producers who can readily ramp up production. And so you don't have the same amount of spare capacity as you have for crude oil. So for food, the big action is in wheat prices, where we expect a 40% increase in 2022. Now, that reflects the importance of Russia and Ukraine as exporters. Together, they account for around 1/4 of global wheat exports. And particularly exports from Ukraine have been interrupted by the war. Now, this is a particular issue for countries in the Middle East and North Africa, since they rely on Russia and Ukraine for a very large share of their wheat imports. The other important aspect in food markets is the price of fertilizers. So fertilizers are made from natural gas, and so the surge in prices we've seen in natural gas has also pushed up the price of fertilizers. And a key risk that we're watching is that farmers start to use fewer fertilizers, and that will reduce agricultural yields, particularly in developing economies.
Our Junta court on Wednesday sentenced Aung San Suu Kyi to 5 years in jail for corruption, part of a barrage of criminal cases that could see the deposed civilian leader jailed for decades. Since a military coup ousted her government in February last year, plunging Myanmar into upheaval, Suu Kyi has been in military custody. In the latest case, the Nobel laureate was accused of accepting a bribe of 600,000 cash and gold bars. After 2 days of delays, the special court in the military-built capital Naypyidaw handed down its verdict and sentence at 9:30 a.m. on Wednesday. Junta spokesperson Zo Min Tan said regarding taking gold and dollars from Philippine court sentenced her 5 years imprisonment. He said she will be under house arrest, but does not know whether she asked for appeal. She still faces a raft of other criminal charges, including violating the Official Secrets Act, corruption, and electoral fraud, and could be jailed for more than 100 years if convicted on all counts.
And the news continues here on ASEAN in Focus. Gila and I will be back right after this.
Nakalimutan mo na naman yung payong? Saan mo naiwan?
Hindi ko nga maalala eh. Kung naalala ko yun, hindi ko makalilimutan yung payong.
Lahat na lang nakakalimutan mo. Paano ka boboto ng mga kandidato kung makakalimutan mo ang lahat?
Pwede pong magdala ng kodigo sa araw ng halalan. Sa bahay pa lang, isulat nyo na po kung sino-sino ang karapat-dapat na kandidato. Isa pa, kung may dala kayong kodigo, mas mapapadali ang inyong pagboto at maaga kayong makakauwi. Mag-asawa po ba kayo?
Tingnan mo, pati ako nakalimutan mo. Mag-asawa tayo.
Eh, yan pala yung payong mo.
Hep, hep! Bago po kayo magdiskusyon, mabuti pa eh, bumili na lang po kayo ng balot sa akin. Malay nyo po, pati po first kiss. Maalala nyo po, nakakain ng balot.
Halika nga, kumain na tayo ng balot.
Para sa karagdagang kaalaman, makipag-ugnayan lang sa pinakamalapit na barangay o bisitahin ang COMELEC website.
A public service message of Net25 for Mata ng Halalan 2022. Matatag, matapang, matapat.
Mga kandidatong humahabol para masungkit ang solidong boto, patuloy na nagtutungo sa tanggapan ng Iglesia ni Cristo. Abangan ngayong Miyerkules sa Mata ng Agila, alas 6 ng gabi, dito lang sa Net25.
And let's head on to Texas, where a mom's dream becomes a reality. One Asian dish at a time. Here's Jane Kathleen Gregorio.
We're here at Hom Hom Cafe in Corpus Christi, Texas, where we discover how a mom fulfilled her dream of building her own restaurant, an Asian fusion cilantro-themed eatery inspired by her son.
Hi, I'm Jessica. I'm the owner and executive chef here at Hom Hom Cafe. Hom Hom means cilantro in Laotian. It's a nickname that was given to my son by his family from Laos.
After working almost every job in the restaurant field for more than 15 years, Jessica Lemos decided it was time to spread her wings and start her own dream restaurant. Despite the challenges of the pandemic, Hom Hom Cafe opened its doors in 2021 with a strong outpouring of support from the community. Using original Southeast Asian recipes taught to her by family members, Jessica brings to the table both traditional flavors as well as her own unique twist.
Cilantro is prominent in the cuisine, and I thought that it was cute, and it all just kind of came together. We serve a variety of Asian cuisine, but we specialize in the Thai and Laos dishes. Pho, curry, ramen. I think the thing that we're most proud of is our chicken wings. They're jumbo Asian marinated wings. We cook them from fresh, so it takes a little while, but I promise it's worth the wait. So my son Zeke, he inspired the entire restaurant, the menu, the cuisine, the drinks, but he's not just the inspiration for the restaurant, he's also my best customer.
Hi, my name is Zeke Tongsawan, and we're here at Hom Hom Cafe. And the wide variety of drinks we have here of the tea are bubble tea, taro, butterfly, and hibiscus. And then we have a very big selection of dishes here, but my favorite dish here and a key factor here are the chicken wings.
What are we looking at now? We have the signature wings, but they do look super crisp, so I expect a good flavor. First, a flavor and crispy goodness. good. This is, what is this? What? Tiny. Oh my gosh. All right, cheers. Is it called the hum hum? Because it's giving its name justice.
This is called the Thai nap, but yeah, it's full of cilantro.
Oh my goodness, it's yummy.
Is it like a cilantro lover's dream come true?
Yes, it is, and that would be me.
They just brought out the curry. So, Adriana, what can you say?
It looks really, really good. It's hot, steaming. It's cold outside, so I'm pretty sure that this is going to be really good to have. That's amazing. I didn't know flavors could do that. Everything's just dancing in my mouth. So good. Thank you for introducing me.
Jane Kathleen Gregorio, Eagle News.
Now, the bayong, an arm accessory which reminds Filipinos abroad of home. Today, we get to meet April Cureg, the creator of Bayong Canada in Vancouver. Here's Kathleen Cruz from Vancouver, British Columbia Bureau.
Bayong. In Filipino, it means bag. A handmade basket woven from palm leaves. An arm accessory which reminds Filipinos abroad of home. Today, we get to meet April Cureg, the creator of Bayong Canada, here in Vancouver.
We came here 2014, that was July, me with my 3 kids that time. And then, I started like a plain housewife, a mom. And then after that, I realized that I need to work because living here in Canada, it's hard.
As a working mom, April realized that abroad, having only one job will not cut it, especially if you are trying to sustain a family.
When I was in college, I really, especially the abaca fibers, I already used those bags when I was in college. I contacted one of my friends and I'm like, at first it's like only a pure business, like to add on, put food on our table and then add on to for the rent, for the bills. And then I realized along the way, that there are waivers who is working so hard for these bags. And, we need to tangkilikin ang sariling atin. There's a story behind these bags. Like every families, like they get food from they get food. Money from these bags.
April's initial purpose in getting into the bayong business was just for additional income, to help meet her family's needs. Little did she know that through these entrepreneurship, the avenue to help kababayans in the Philippines had just been paved. Thus, the business tagline, bag of a kind, bag with purpose.
What I did is I collaborate with some charities like Sulat Kamay, and then the Musa Fabric, which they also support the women who in jail. Which I feel like through selling bags, through selling these products, I was able to help our kababayan back homes. Mm-hmm. And not only that, like I have resellers all over Canada, every province. So through this, we were able to train more waivers, more workers in the Philippines. I am so grateful that the community here in BC and all over Canada, they embraced the Bayong Canada because they saw the effort, they saw my advocacy to help our waivers back home. When it comes to profit, I don't get much profit, but I am so thankful because a lot of, community, the Filipino community leaders here in BC, like they ask me like, oh, can we use Bayong Canada to do the fashion show for this kind of project? Like my service, you don't need to pay me, anything. As long as there is, there is a beneficiary with the project. So that is totally fine.
Bayong Canada focuses on a modern look, a fashionable take on the classic sack.
I want to pass this, one to every generations. Kumbaga, ayoko siyang maging luma. So right now, Bayong is more like trendy and then more in. We have sling bags, we have document bags, gym bags, laptops, whatever. So, I come up with ideas na maging modern siya maging in siya ngayon sa generation. So, pambata man yan, pangmatanda man yan. So, I make sure na nandun yung pagiging Pilipino natin and makita nila how amazing it is, ang galing ng mga Pilipino na sobrang ganda ng gawa natin. And this is what I want na i-promote globally. This is made of seagrass material, and then this one, as you can see, it's not a thread. That is raffia. That is made of raffia, still coming from the plants. Then we put some beads on it. These designs, I personally made it, and then I gave it to the weavers, and then they made it for me.
April's dream for Bayong Canada is so great, one might think it's far beyond reach. But with every piece of this artistry hanging on every arm that embraces them and the stories interwoven within them, this Filipina entrepreneur understands that anything is possible.
2022 is I'm looking forward to have a bigger e-commerce, more on online shops, online like Amazon, something like that. Because ang ganda ng produkto natin. My tagline is bag of a kind and bag with purpose. Because we're not just, as what I've said, we're not just only buying bags here. We're also helping people. We're also helping communities back home.
Join us next time here on Journey, Stories of Filipinos in Canada.
Thank you, Kathleen, and thank you, Gila, for keeping me company here on ASEAN in Focus, as always. Keep safe.
You're welcome, Alma. And that's the latest news in the ASEAN region. And thank you for joining us today here in ASEAN in Focus. This is Gila Pablo from Thailand Bureau, and we live in an extraordinary times.
Thank you very much, Gila. And we'll see you back next week. I'm Alma Angeles. Have a good day, and we'll see you back.